bring you in. You'll hear me over the live speaker.
Hold on, I should be coming back to you soon,
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Okay. Get your hand up my pockets, brother. MisterxR here. I told you the brother will probably call back. I ended up doing a small show for a little bit. Got a little drowsy, but we're gonna do a quick show with our brother Kaba Cabernet, star, one of the many stars of the Hidden Color movies, 1804, and Out of Darkness as well. A great DVD, long DVD, but I got them all, and those movies basically changed the face of curriculum for African people from here on now. And if you all recall, the only thing we really had was the Eye on the Prize documentaries and the John Henry Clark documentary and a few other documentaries that weren't very well known. Hidden Colors really changed everything, and God bless Brother Tariq Nasheed and all the brothers and sisters that was involved in the projects. But the brother is here now. We're going to discuss Kwanzaa. We're going to discuss Thanksgiving. We're going to discuss Christmas, and I was just watching just a little bit at the beginning of it, Godfather of Harlem. But without further ado, we're going to introduce Brother Kaba Cabernet. How you doing, brother?
To my brother, I am doing excellent. And like I told you when I just called you, brother, I know I was running a little late, but today is Savy Day. Sister Ma'at, his wife, invited me to participate and to speak at the event. And man, we were having a good time. And I thought the time that we were scheduled a lot of time to be able to make it back to my phone to call you. But man, it was so exciting, and the people there, it was sold out. Tickets were put up on Eventbrite, and Dr. Savy, the great African biomineralist, man, he has grown because of the nature of Nipsey Hussle and the work that Nipsey was doing, trying to bring his legacy alive. And then with the unfortunate transition of Nipsey Hussle, came Nick Cannon, who continued the project. And he invited me to be a part of the project. And today is Savy Day. Today is the day to celebrate Dr. Savy. Wow. And, man, it was exciting, brother. There was a lot of folks there. They wanted to talk, and they wanted the communion and get a sense of who this man was and how he contributed to our community, brother. So I apologize for my lateness, but we were celebrating Dr. Savy. But here we are, ready to talk. Have a good time.
That's right. Well, that's great. I guess we could start with that, and we can presume that the people have a level of familiarity with you. I've been watching you for a very long time. We met last year at the Kwanzaa event in Albany, New York, and Kwanzaa is coming up again. But I don't know if you follow Nick Cannon. I'm going to be honest, was never really a fan of Nick Cannon. It just didn't seem someone that was very talented to me. But after watching him more and more and watching his mental transition to consciousness and some of the people he's had on in his show that mainstream media won't have. And I think this is a great opportunity and time for those who are part of the Hollywood entertainment to be independent because of the following that they already have. They can always just turn on the camera, go live, and now you have your own independent entity at this point in time. And more brothers and sisters are doing that. To start with just the principles of Kwanzaa, as it looks like Brother Nick Cannon is now starting to take part in. And I asked you this last year: how important is the Kwanzaa principles to African people the world over?
Well, what's interesting is that the principles of Kwanzaa are important to anybody. And what's interesting, and one of the things that I always focus on, is attempting to present Kwanzaa as an unfoldment. When you look at the principles of Kwanzaa, they build on each other. It's like going from 1 to 7. You can't even do anything if you don't have unity. And that's umoja. That's the purpose of the first day. And then once you get a sense of unity to be with each other, to respect and love each other as a people, then we can have the second day, Kujichagulia, where you can determine for yourself who who you think you are, who you believe you are. You can define your own personhood. And out of Kujichagulia, self-determination, you go to Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. Collective responsibility, collective work and responsibility, of course. After a while, when you work together, you realize that you have to have some form of cooperative economics, which is Ujamaa. And then from the fourth day, you then, move to Kuumba. You see, and so your creativity, I always get Kuumba, and then Mia, Imani, all of these have a place. And so it becomes important that those 7 principles that you walk through and that you understand to have peace. And of course, that's when you've gone through and established unity, work collectively, accepted responsibility, when you've determined for yourself who you are, when you have cooperative economics and Nia, which is purpose, Kuumba, which is the 6th day, Nia is the 5th, Kuumba, which is the 6th day, creativity, and then to have faith in yourself. These are principles that you live by. And what's interesting is that 7 is not so much that from January 26th until January 1st. It's really every day of the week. And it's not even that you practice one a day, it's that you practice all 7 every day. And so it becomes important that we understand where we have to return back to. And what I believe our brother, Dr. Maulana Karenga, who was attempting to put this together, was attempting to do for us, is he was attempting to get us away from the idea of gift giving as the primary focus. Of course, the last day of Kwanzaa, you have a big party, and you share gifts and things like that. But it's not how much the gift costs that's most important. It's what it means to you that is important. So that I think that one of the things that becomes extremely important for us to understand about Kwanzaa is that it is a harvest. It is the idea of harvesting. And it is the children who are our greatest product. They are our greatest crop. They are our future. And so if you till the soil and water it and do all the proper things, you will grow a great crop, a great harvest, just as you will build a great nation if you take care of the needs of children.
We're coming up on Thanksgiving, and many of our people enjoy the holidays. It's Thanksgiving holidays, Christmas holiday. We'll deal with Christmas in a second. But Thanksgiving is something that's been a pastime for Black people for a very long time. I just actually ran into a post by Brother Hassim Nzinga, the chairman of the new Black Panther Party, and he talked about a new holiday that Dr. Khalid had created based a lot around the same Kwanzaa type principles. I forget the name of it. But with Thanksgiving coming, and a lot of the brothers and sisters continuously putting out information about Thanksgiving and the reality of Thanksgiving, could you go over the reality of Thanksgiving and what it really comes from? And so our people are not going to this thing thinking that the Pilgrims and the Indians actually broke bread in peace and harmony and ate together.
Well, the key again goes back to harvest. Economics, echo comes from the Greek word oikos, which means environment or home. And so economy or economics really goes around to the fact to know your environment, and agriculture became the base of all endeavors, because if you can eat, you can do anything.
Yeah.
And so the idea of a harvest also in the Thanksgiving was an indigenous celebration of the last harvest before the weather changed. It became winter. And so they had a celebration in Thanksgiving to the Creator and the Spirit for all that he and she had given them. And it just so happened that people of European descent observed it, and they were invited to be a part of the Native American celebration of the harvest. And so it sort of kind of has changed its name. That's why I call it Misgiving Day.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing wrong with celebrating it, but know what you're celebrating.
Okay.
Know what you're celebrating. You know, I enjoy coming together with family. I enjoy being with them. I enjoy all the festivities that come from celebration. We as African folk, we like to party.
Yeah.
We like to have a good time. We like to eat good food. But we know why we're eating it. We know what we're doing when we do it. And people say, well, what's the evidence that it was Native American? Well, look at everything on the table. Everything on the table was a Native American product.
Mm-hmm.
Right down to succotash, the beans and corn.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was an indigenous celebration. Now, let me tell you something else. The original indigenous people were Africans.
Right.
The people that we know of today is the fifth migration of people that came to this part of the world, and they were the Asians that came during the Mongolian invasion, and they came across and down into what we call Canada, and then came down into the United States. But they met a people already here. They met a people here, like so did Cristobal Columbus met a people that were here.
Mm.
So the celebration of harvest has always been very important to the original family, who happens to be African. So that as we celebrate these activities, it's all right, but just know what you're celebrating. Wasn't no pilgrims doing anything. They didn't have anything. They were the tired, the poor, the sick,
Mm-hmm.
the hungry. It was Native Americans that saved them from their plight of Europe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were discussing.
And so it is another harvest. It's another harvest. It's another respect to the Creator for all that the Creator, he and she, has given us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, we are certainly a people who like to get to gather and to indulge and eat and drink and try to get together in oneness and harmony, in contradiction to American society, which has us at each other's throats. And so to put context on the so-called Thanksgiving holiday, because like you said, Aboriginal people were African people, and that process of education being disseminated to our youths, so that when they are taught this in school, I think that is really the breaking ground. There is when they're taught these things in school to know the proper history. I like to ask this while I'm dealing with public school and history. Do you think it's pertinent for public schools to teach the truth about things like this, especially something like Thanksgiving?
Yes and no. Yes, because I believe that the truth is always very important and children have got to know. But I do not believe that Western education has the moral compass to do the right thing.
Mm.
I don't think teachers know how to do some. I'm not going to speak about them all because I am a teacher, proud to be a teacher. I have worked with phenomenal educators. So I don't speak in absolutes, and I'm not speaking about everybody. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying this. The system itself is not prepared to teach the truth to the children.
Mm.
And we have got to come to realize, and we have got to teach it ourselves. I do not waste my time trying to force the public school system to teach African culture.
Mm.
I go around various places that I'm invited. I teach the community how to teach the children.
Mm.
These are community centers, after-school programs, homeschooling networks. Because right now, the teachers that we have in the system right now are not prepared to teach culture. They're struggling teaching the subjects that they're supposed to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're having problems teaching math and reading and science and social studies, what's going to happen when you try and get to teach a subject they have no idea about and don't care about?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't waste my time. It's up to us. But do I think they should? Yes, they should. But they don't have the moral compass to do it. And I'm not wasting my time trying to force them to do something, because when you force them, they're going to end up doing it worse, and you wish that you never had them do it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope people understand my answer to your question, because for me, this is the fundamental point that we have to come to. We have to do this ourselves. And yeah, okay, so we pay them. But so what? We pay them and they should do it, but they're not going to do it. And it's been my 40-plus years experience in educating that I've come to that conclusion. One day maybe, but not now. And I don't have time to wait. So we got to do this now, family. We ain't got time to wait.
It's true. That's true. We are trying to accomplish that still after a couple of years to try to develop educational system or institution here locally, so that we can empower our kids mentally and our children mentally to combat this world. So many things have been done politically to basically destroy future generations, as our people are focusing on day-to-day living and can barely see the future, as the old show says, keeping their heads above water. That's what we've been doing since we've been on this continent. We're coming up on another holiday. As I said, it's the end of the holiday, at the end of the year, and you have 3 holidays. You have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, and you have New Year's. Christmas, dealing with Christmas, and I'm sure I know that you taught on this a good amount of times, but to hit some bullet points about the history of Christmas, and even if you any information that you have in regards to Minister Farrakhan's plight of basically destroying the need for Black people to go and subsidize major corporate entities into this false Christmas holiday. If you can run that just a little bit, if you can, to the listening audience.
Well, you know, it all comes down to a choice, my brother, that we all have to make as a people. And I know that we spend a great deal of our time, and I try not to be judgmental with our people, because I understand what we're experiencing as people. But I think that there comes a point in time that we all have to wonder about what we're doing with our money,
Mm-hmm.
and how we're spending it. The idea of what you call Christmas, it's not a bad idea. It's just that it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get caught up in celebrating these false concepts, then you get caught up in a lot of other things at the same time. And so what I'm hoping that we can do as a people is begin to look at this and understand what it is that we have to do. Just simple like that, my brother. I honestly and truthfully believe. And I know that there are some people who are not prepared to give up their Christmas and their Thanksgiving. And I understand. So I speak to a particular group of people who don't mind, because we have our versions of the same thing. It's just the symbology is different.
Mm.
Because I instituted an activity around the Thanksgiving holiday, or if you call it Thanksgiving, and I called it Olmec Day. And that was the celebration of the African presence in America.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I used the work of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Now, of course, I include the great work of Dr. David Imhotep, the first American for Africans. And I also use other scholars' work like Umar S. Bey, brother wrote Pyramids in America. There is another book that talks about the Paleo-Americans. and I've got a curriculum around the African presence in America. So there's a way we could celebrate what we call Thanksgiving too. And we could call it Olmec Day. And the symbol is the Olmec head sitting atop an American pyramid. Just like you have the Eye of Haru on top of the Kemetic pyramid, the symbol is an Olmec head on top of the American pyramid.
Right. And
out of this, we celebrate and continue the concept of harvesting and growing, understanding life as it relates to conception and birth and growth, aging, death, decay, and resurrection. That's the harvest. Now that our ancestors came to this is the cornerstone to the book I wrote titled Spirituality Before Religions, which, by the way, is available on Amazon. And it highlights this part of the book of where did human beings develop the philosophy of spirituality, of resurrection of the soul, the caress. And it comes out of agriculture. That's why the subtitle of my book, Spirituality Before Religions, was Spirituality is Unseen Science, and Science is Seen Spirituality. Africans didn't believe in God. Africans didn't have faith in God. Africans knew God. You can lose your faith, you can stop believing, but once you know, you know. And so instead of wrapping ourselves around these fictitious, mythological, meaningless celebrations were meant to fine-tune your understanding of the Creator's role in your life. You know, the idea of peace on earth and goodwill to men and women is a novel idea. And if we all lived it, we would be living in a very nice world.
Yeah.
And so I believe that however you celebrate what you do, just know what you're doing. Have the knowledge of what you're doing. Everybody go buck wild over Halloween. Very few people understand that came out of Africa as ancestral worship. That's why the Catholic Church, November 1st, November 2nd, is All Saints Day and All Souls Day. What became Halloween, a night of ghouls and goblins, at one time really was paying homage to the ancestors, the saints and the souls of the ancestors. And the thing is that Halloween was Halloween.
Yeah.
It was the evening before. Like you have Christmas Eve. You have New Year's Eve, which was the community preparing themselves for the celebration, for the gathering of the celebration itself. And so once we understand these concepts and we put them into practice, you don't have to stop doing things. Just alter your interpretation of what you're doing. Because like I said, black folk like good stuff. We like jewelry. We like party. We like to smell good. We like to eat good food. We enjoy life. Nothing wrong with that. But when you got folk out here in the street that can barely make it, you have to ask yourself, where are we headed as a civilization? Where you have the haves and the have-nots.
Politically, there's a lot of things going on right now in current events. I don't know if you keep tabs on it based upon how often you get called for interviews, but there's an uproar right now currently about the Colin Kaepernick situation in football. And, I've read some books in regards to our propensity to overindulge ourselves in the sports, but that, back in our day on the continent, that there were things that we did that were sports-like, but it wasn't in the fervor that it is now. Can you compare those times, games that were played in the past? I think one was called Omolotusly or something like that was similar to a basketball and soccer combined. Compare it to our thought process playing those games then and how we do it now.
Yes. Well, it's funny that you should say that because I've been doing research. I have a online class Shock Metaphysics is the site that you go to, and I teach a class, and I'm about to teach a class on the Moors.
Mm.
And what I often tell people is that in order to teach a class on the Moors, you have to understand the Africans, the Cushites that were in the Mediterranean basin, before there was ever such a thing as European, Indo-European. Before the Greeks, the Africans were called the Pelasgians. Before the Italians, the Africans were called the Etruscans. You can go to Sardinia, Corsica, Cyprus, Crete. You'll find Africans there long before Indo-European. And what you find, and also interesting, in Spirituality Before Religions, there's also a segment that I have on what's called the Sed Festival, SED Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sed Festival was a celebration that the Pharaoh, or the Neset B'ti as we call him, would go through trials and tribulations, mainly physical, but he would be tested in order to prove that he was worthy to be able to lead the nation. But that Sed Festival was an ancient, because the thing about it is that the Greeks and the Romans inherited the Olympics from Africa.
Mm.
And originally, sports came about through military training. The idea of competitive sports came about through military training. In other words, when you look at the discus was a weapon that Africans threw when they were fighting, when they were at war. The javelin was a spear that they used in war. The bow and arrow. These are all Olympic sports, but they come from military science. Running, whether it be marathon, or whether it be relay, or whether it be dash. That was all military training that both men and women went through. And so the idea of sports comes out of military training. That even the word Olympic itself comes from Africa. Olu Impa comes from Africa. And so sports has its place because it, well, for one thing, if sports on a healthy level is good because you can, it keeps you healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is the fact that it has changed because it's gotten into money.
Right.
And I remember growing up, there weren't as many basketball games as there are now.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't as many football games as they are now. And so what I'm thinking about and what I'm looking at is, with due respect, I have nothing but respect for Colin Kaepernick. More power to the guy. Okay, me not judge, let's judge us. He did what he had to do.
Right.
I say, do your thing, brother. Whatever that may be, do your thing. And that's exactly what he did. More power to the brother. Make your money, do what you got to do, play your game, whatever it is that you have to do, that you believe that you need to do. Nobody sees the system from the perspective of Colin Kaepernick. So who am I to tell him what he should do, which is right or wrong? See, brother, here's something that I think that is welcome. I support anybody black doing anything black. That's how I feel. If you are black and still alive in 2019, I got nothing but love and respect. I love our people unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that I would do differently? Yes, there are. But that's because it's me. Just like there's this big to-do now about this movie called Harry. Okay? But a year and a half ago, I produced my own documentary on Harriet Tubman.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's called the Inner Ground Railroad. And I went up to her home in Auburn. I showed you where she lived. I showed you the resource center up there. I showed you where her senior citizens home was. I even visited her gravesite, said a prayer for her at her gravesite on documentary. Just before that, just after that, I did a documentary on Malcolm. The point that I'm making, brother, is that I am not going, if something comes out that I don't like, I'm not going to put another brother or sister down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it the way I think it should be done.
There you go.
And I think if more of us did this, there'd be more harmony amongst us.
Right.
I haven't seen the Harriet Tubman movie yet. I think I may. I haven't seen it yet. But, you know, we have to do our own thing. Everybody, you may complain about it, but it was white folk that basically were behind that movie.
Yeah.
So we got to do our own movie. If you don't like what they do, you do you. That's how I feel. I don't complain about that. I don't expect them to be able to do Harriet like I would do Harriet. I don't expect them to do Malcolm. This was one of Spike Lee's biggest challenges when he made Malcolm in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, this is where I'm coming from. As a person, where I have developed myself, is I spend my energy attempting to build us up and not tear us down. And so, my thing about Colin Kaepernick, first of all, is the fact that up in Buffalo, you have a sister named Dr. Eva Doyle, who, when this happened with Colin Kaepernick, she brought me up to Buffalo to do a presentation, and she shared a book she wrote on the Star Spangled Banner. And I'm telling black folks, forget about kneeling for it. We shouldn't sing it.
Yeah.
The third stanza of the Star Spangled Banner attacks black people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who sought their freedom by siding with the British and fighting the enslavers. The fourth stanza is very detrimental to Native American people. So I say, forget about kneeling or standing. And put out your mind, put your heart, your hand to your heart, to sing a song that wanted to demolish you, that wanted to kill you, that wanted to enslave you. So Mr. Scott Key was an enslaver.
Right.
He was a horrible human being. And he meant black people no good. So I'm going to sing that song representing the country I live in. I don't. So when we're dealing with these issues, brother, we got to get real with our conversation. I would have, and see, this is what I ask European people when they come at me like this. I say, tell me, what do you think of me if I would honor somebody who meant me harm? Am I out of my mind to do that? And if you could make me do it, why should you respect me? Why should you respect me? If I'm willing to lower myself to that level, why should you respect me? It's up to me to respect me, and in so doing, expect nothing less from you. It's up to us. So you talk about this Star Spangled Banner controversy. It ain't got nothing to do with the military. This has nothing to do with respect for the country. This has to do with self-respect. Look at the third stanza, and I tell people of European descent, because I read it to them. I read see, we only sing the first two stanzas.
Right.
We don't sing the third and fourth. So when I read third and fourth stanza to them, I tell them, as someone of African and Native American descent, tell me why I should respect this song. Tell me. And that shuts them up. Unless you go and tell me that you're just a plain white supremacist, fragile and all, and you just tell me I got to do this. And then we can deal with this on another level. But tell me why I should honor something that doesn't honor me. I have to be out of my mind.
You mentioned doing a documentary on Malcolm X, and you mentioned independent filmmaking for blacks whom do not like what the European paymasters are producing about our heroes and sheroes. A very popular documentary out right now. Your brother, who was involved in it, brother Professor James Small, Godfather of Harlem. Have you watched it, and what do you think about it?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it at all.
Haven't seen it? Okay.
No, I haven't seen it. I've seen people make statements, about particularly the depiction of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. I've heard it about Malcolm, but I haven't seen the film enough to be able to comment on it.
I know.
I would only be commenting other people's comments.
Right. And I've seen some interviews, more particularly, I believe it's a Laugh at First Sight or something like that. Riveting interviews about the relationship between Bumpy Johnson and Malcolm X, and there's been back and forth about how close they actually were to one another, considering Malcolm's schedule within the nation and how often he had to travel and things like that. Uh, uh, how true is the depicted relationship between, or the assumed relationship between Bumpy Johnson and Malcolm X? Are you familiar with that relationship and how realistic?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. One of the things, and I speak about this in Hidden Colors 5, there has always been a relationship between the underground and the overground in the black community.
Yeah.
Many times it was the underground that supported the overground. We'll never know how close they were. Nobody will ever know. Because only Bumpy know and only Malcolm know. There might be some people that may have seen what happened, but I would imagine that anyone of Bumpy Johnson's stature and influence in the community and Malcolm's knowledge of that underworld at one time would have brought them together under certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But it has always worked together. There have always been things done for a lot of different reasons. Not just altruistic, but selfish too. Because if Malcolm put a bad word out on you, you were in trouble. Mm-hmm. If Bumpy Johnson put a bad word out on you, you were in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes the underground and the overground work together to move the people forward with understanding. But understanding Malcolm, I would not have thought or think that Malcolm would have been best friend. Because Malcolm had left that life. And he believed that it was destructive to the community. And I believe that Malcolm, of the many things that he may have been, there was one thing I know he wasn't, and that was a hypocrite. And so it would be difficult for me to hear him speak against drugs and alcohol and gambling, and then be friends with someone that developed it in the community. I just don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's from a personal, psychological perspective of where Malcolm was in his life. Putting pieces together, because I taught a college course on Malcolm for 11 years. And there were times I taught it both terms. So that my research on Malcolm, as I began to teach over the years of life, expanded me in areas that I knew people that knew him well. I knew him and was familiar with Dr. Betty Shabazz when she worked in the nursing department at Medgar Evers.
Right.
I was a friend of Earl Grant, who was Malcolm's very good friend, and I'm a student of John Henry Clark, who was one of Malcolm's teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in understanding Malcolm as a person, and understanding Bumpy Johnson, and understanding what Malcolm was trying to do to the community to clean him up, it's hard for me to see him as best friends or like him. I think that they were allies, but I don't think they were friends. But I have to speak from my own personal view of Malcolm, my own personal view of Bumpy Johnson, as it relates to how they would interact with each other during Malcolm's life on the streets as a Muslim minister, saying what he was saying.
I have a particular question because you mentioned a couple of things, and I'm familiar. I'm not gonna say I'm like most of our conscious brothers who uttered the names of John Henry Clark and Dr. Bennett. I know you very familiar with that. As any conscious circle you run around, those are two names that you hear so often. In many of Dr. Clark's speeches, he was critical of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I wonder, since you were his student, do you think the death of Malcolm, whom he was close to, did that bother him to a point where he would always put himself in a position to really look at the minister very closely with, like a microscope, if you will?
Yes. Oh, and he did. He did. And in many of our conversations, yes, he did. My view of Minister Farrakhan as it relates to what he has done, again, I say I am also very critical for different reasons. And when I said it, I mean not different from Dr. Clark's, in conjunction with Dr. Clark, but there are many reasons why. But I also have to tell you that Minister Louis Farrakhan has done a great service to the Black community. And, this thing that we're doing right now, brother, and to the family that's listening, this is a strategy. And we have to understand that one of the most powerful organizations as a unit in the United States of America is the Nation of Islam. They bring forward decent human beings that support and respect the community, Black community. It is ingrained in their very nature to be respectful. Many of them, most of them, from what I see. Mm-hmm. My exposure to brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam is very positive. And the other thing is, I know that there are people that disagree with me, my perspective, and that's their right. But what makes us strong is that despite and in spite of that disagreement, we're not disagreeable. So while Professor Clark disagreed, sometimes vehemently, with Minister Farrakhan, it was never disagreeable. He always kept his conversation on an intelligent, scholastic level. He always demanded that we critically think.
Right.
And so it becomes very important that we become aware and that we critically think. I support anybody Black doing anything Black. You will not hear me speak ill of another brother or sister publicly. But privately, I will tell you what I feel. But I will not do it publicly. Because I'm not going to allow that feeling that I may have to permeate and to impact our community to divide and conquer. Ever. That's where I'm coming. I love my people unconditionally. And the last thing our people need, particularly our children, is seeing Black folks fighting amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm aware of Dr. Clark's disagreements and how he felt. And I, in many ways, feel the same. But I respect the brother for what he's doing for our people, but I understand the limitations as it relates to how it's going to make us move to the next level.
Understood.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes. As we come into the end of the interview, I want to thank you again for spending time with the Get You In On My Pocket audience as we're growing it. And I appreciate you answering the questions candidly and honestly and respectfully. I do want to take this one last shot at New Year's. And I'm somewhat familiar I don't want to mispronounce it. What's the calendar, time calendar that we're in, brother?
The Gregorian calendar.
Yes, yes, and coming up on New Year's, and what do you believe coming up on 2020? You got the 2020 elections, you got the Trump, you got the impeachments, you got all those different things that's going on politically. What should Black people look to do heading into the new year?
Well, we're not in 2020. This 2020 is a fictitious number.
Yes.
That we give to the birth of this Jesus Christ, which comes from an Abrahamic faith system, which is African, but that's a side point. But this was our calendar. Our calendar, this is our calendar.
Mm.
But you see, the thing is, African folk had more than one calendar. This calendar is an agricultural calendar. This is the calendar of 360 days, or if you want to look at 365.25 days. There was another calendar that was, you talk about a leap year, every 2,100 and whatever, or 1,000 something. I want to be careful how I say this, but I don't want to throw out the wrong number. But what I want to tell you is that there was a time, like for instance, we're coming up on leap year now,
mm-hmm.
where we're going to add a day to February.
Okay, February 29th.
Africans had a calendar where you added an entire year. You just went 365 days a year over and over and over again. I think the number is 1,460. I'm not sure. But I want to be careful. But they added an entire year. That's where leap year came from.
Okay.
Where they added a year, not a day. They added an entire year after a certain amount of years of 365 days. They had a calendar where they had 10 days in a week, 3 weeks in a month. They had a calendar where there was 9 days in a week. And all of them were satisfied certain things as it related to the development of the society itself. So, yeah, this is a new year, but this ain't the only new year. And also, first of all, they have a problem because, we have 31 days in July. Okay, we had it where all the months were even at one time. But at one time. But then all these Roman emperors got up there, and Augustus said he was going to add a day to August, and then Julian said he was going to add a day to July, and then all of a sudden everybody took the days off of February. So they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what time it is. They haven't been around long enough to know what time. Mm. We've been around for millions of years. We've been charting the sky for millions of years. We know what time it is. Mm. It's time for a change, to tell you the truth.
Yes, sir.
And we just have to get back to that point where we understand our history and culture, where the changes that we make are institutional, and we know why we're making them, not for emotional reasons, but for scientific reasons, for reasons of wisdom and knowledge and fulfillment. And not just because we're chasing a man of European descent with a white beard dressed in red. So I'm talking about a sleigh and reindeer. Man, that's mythology. There's nothing wrong with mythology, but that's what you tell children.
Right. That's right.
And the same thing with the Misgiving Days, Thanksgiving Days, Halloween, and all these. And, these folk are really, they're not in the real world. They have made up fantasy. And they're trying to get all of us to follow their fantasy. I'm sorry, I can't handle that right now. We have too many important things we have to do to deal with all these mythological figures that they have made literal. Go with the mythology, but there's a science behind the mythology. And so I just want to encourage our community to go to Amazon.com and check out Spirituality Before Religion. This is my second book. My first book is Paying Intellectual Libation to Professor William Leo Hansberry, who was the architect for America's African Studies program back in the 1920s. If you're interested in my online class, you can go to Shock Metaphysics. Shock stands for Seeking Higher Omnipotent Conscious Knowledge. You go to SHOCKMETAPHY Put the word shock, SHOCK, in the slot, and it'll be half price for you. It's $30 a month, but if you put shock, it becomes $14.98 a month. And it's not just me. There are phenomenal scholars like Dr. Obert Shock, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Nzinga Dalila. We have counselors, brothers and sisters dedicated. Brother Brandon Jones, young brother, brilliant brother. The counselor for the young brothers and sisters who are trying to move forward, try to understand the world. Brandon is there for you. He's available for private consultations also. We have Sister Dr. Kiri Nelson, spiritualist, metaphysician. So it's not just me with my online class. You get everybody. Everybody comes down at shockmetaphysics.com. And then my website is kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com. If you go to my website, you can download my free e-course on my book, Spirituality Before Religion. And you can also get my free study guide, 45 pages, man. After Hidden Colors, young people came up to me asking me for books. And I realized that for some people who knew this information, brother, as you know, Hidden Colors didn't teach you anything new, but it was good to see.
Yeah.
It was good to have it, the information you already knew reaffirmed. But there were some people that came to that movie house and did not know. They were not installed. They were not ready for what they were about to experience.
Right.
And that book, that movie, that documentary opened them up to this information.
Yeah.
And they were hungry for more information. They wanted to know what books it was. So what I did is I decided to put an outline for my life's work. A 45-page study guide that has all the list of books and themes of how you study the African origins in Africa, how you can study the Africans in Europe, Moors, Africans in Asia. It got the whole setup. Because I taught these classes in college, I just set it up for the community to be able to understand exactly what's going on. So if you go to kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com, you can download my free e-course and my study guide, and then you can stay updated with other information I have up there. And so this is where we're headed going into 2020. This is our time, and it's very important for us to understand that this is our time as a people, as a human family. You can see by all the chaos out here that something's going on. Somebody's falling. Somebody's going to pay the price. But at the same time, it's up to us. Responsibility is two words, not one. Responsibility is the response to your ability. What is your gift? What were you given by the divine creator for you to achieve on this planet in your lifetime? And when you find it, share it. Because that's your purpose. That's your need. And have imani, have faith to understand what it is that we have to do. And we must start with unity.
Brother, I want to thank you for coming on and calling me back and gracing us with your presence. Be well in your travels. And I just want to thank you again. And peace to you, brother.
And, brother, I thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm proud of what it is that you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing, because you give us a microphone to talk to the community about what we're doing. So you are very valuable to us because you allow us to express ourselves to the community. So thank you for all that you do, and I thank the family who's listening for all that you do. And I'm so proud of us as a people. And as we go into 2020, understand, keep on keeping on, because it ain't over till. Hotep family.
Peace, brother. That was brother Kaba is bringing it down, dropping the real heat with this. Like I said, it came down in Kwanzaa. And I told y'all the last live I did was 37 minutes. And I said, I'm just going to keep the computer on just in case he calls. So I'll probably delete that video. But he laid on some very, very good information. And basically, the ending that it's our time. It is our time. And you see the chaos around America. You see the fall of America right in front of you. You realize that it's a weak point. And if someone's weak, and if you watch some old WWE or WWF matches as they were called, the World Wrestling Federation, and you know the wrestler was injured or he favored a limb on him, what did the other wrestler used to do? Attack that limb, and maybe he couldn't defeat him while he was completely healthy, but he would use any and all means to limit the wrestler so that it would bring down his overall effectiveness, and thus he'd be able to defeat him. And that's what we have to look at America. We come up with all these excuses that we put in front of ourselves while not to attack. But America is dying. And, you know, if you don't attack appropriately, you'll die with it because you keep trying to breathe life into a dying entity. It becomes a zombie. You know, this is the zombie thing that we got going. We're walking dead. And what we're used to doing is pouring life energy into a dead thing. And you should let the dead thing be a dead thing. If it is dying and is beyond resuscitation, let it be. And through the ashes comes a phoenix. And so a new nation will be built. Will we all be there to enjoy it? No. That's the scary thing about this, is that we will all not be there to enjoy it. But this is part of awakening the mind. So when you awaken the mind, you realize your life is just a conduit for another life. And then when you love your people so much, you will give that life. You will be the anointed one. You will be the Christ figure. In our time, in our greatness, you know, people jumped and captured Africans, captured the Africans, basically jumped the boat, knowing that they will be reborn back in Africa. This is how strong the belief system was. It wasn't, oh, it's right there, or we far away, and man, I'm done with this. I'm gonna go back home because heaven was home. So, woo-hoo, I'm out. And I know I'll come through the portal of heaven, through the womb of the black woman, and I'll be back. I'll just have to start all over again. And I may not have any recollection of this time, but that's okay. Because my belief is that strong. Our belief system is that strong. It was not something that we had to go door to door and beat your head with it. That's not how things were done. So Brother Kaba just doing what he does. I'm greatly appreciative of this. Please share this interview. Please just share this interview. What I may do is when I'm interviewing someone on the phone, I may have the screen blacked out so you can concentrate more on the audio as opposed to the visual, so that you don't see me unless it's just me discussing things. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the interview. I'm going to put a nice little description into it. Please share, like, subscribe, let other people know. I think this was a powerful interview, and hopefully it goes viral. We're trying to build the media, as the brother said, to be a conduit, to be a voice for the people. We want to utilize it so that our people can be successful, so that we can network. Ultimately, you get loyalty through people whom you do good by. And if you can constantly, consistently do good by them, they'll be loyal to you. So be mindful of that. And one other thing, get your hand on my pocket. I see y'all. Subscribe, soundcloud.com/DYHOMP, Mr. X. Peace out, y'all.